Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honestly glad to have you all here today, and hopefully you're having a great one. But we're here, and hopefully our first of many videos and maybe Q&As related to the old 2013 RPG Flash game, The Bravest Hunter. And while it was previously developed, as you may know by now, ArtLogicGames, they ceased development for the game, and all online functions for the game were cut, and the game has been axed. It's gone. But we're here, and I've acquired all of the intellectual property for this game. I am the sole owner and currently sole developer for it, and I am more than honored to be the one currently giving this game a second chance at life. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to add a quick tidbit and a thank you to Lasmelan. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I don't want to be doing him any injustice. He's the owner of the Epic War franchise, and he's doing this with his own team. He is completely reviving the games, and it's just awesome. He is a huge inspiration to what I'm doing right now, and he was more than happy to answer a few questions I had for him. So I'll link his work down below. If you guys aren't aware, the Epic War franchise is being completely revived. It's awesome. Go and check out his work. I'll link it below and tell him thank you and that I sent you. But more importantly, let's get into this Q&A and let me hopefully answer your guys' questions. Let's go. Now, starting off, I've actually got a small question of my own that I'd like to answer, and that's, will the Flash version of the game be updated whatsoever? And I'm actually kind of happy to say possibly. I'm looking to patch the game to make it offline only, so you don't crash your game and soft lock it and have to restart it every time you click play, because it's not meant to do that. And to I don't even know how to word it, just remove the lock on the premium shop and actually set it so that it's buyable with gold. It'll have to be tweaked. I'm gonna have to look into the prices, and there's a lot of stuff where you just have to force it in there. And if not, I may just lock the premium shop altogether, just getting it out, and I'll just put everything in the shop and we'll kind of ease it in there, allowing you guys to actually buy the locked premium items. And the final thing is removing ads. I don't want the ads in there, and it's really annoying to play a decade-old game with ads still in it. So yeah, that might be the only update we're gonna see. I've tried to reinstate the multiplayer for the game, and it really doesn't work. I've spent literal days just working on reinstating the multiplayer, changing it around, trying to get it into a actual compiler that would run the game properly, and there just isn't anything anymore. And the documentation for that old software that they used just doesn't work. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say software, but code. The old multiplayer platform doesn't work anymore. So, multiplayer access for the game? No. Possible patch for the Flash version? Yes. And that's pretty exciting because it allows you guys to actually play it without all the annoyances that we currently have at the moment. So, to answer that, yes. More than likely there will be a patch to the Flash version of the game. Now, the next question we're going to answer is, where's the game being moved to? And when I ask that question, I ask, where is the game going to be available? And I'm thinking more so that the game should be released on Steam. That's the primary focus, and that's where I'd like to move the game to. Super accessible, a lot of people have it, and I think it's just the most popular option. The prior platforms that it used to be available on, I believe, Armor Games, Congregate, and Miniclip, I actually believe it was on as well, are almost irrelevant at this point. I don't want to say it like that, but there is so much less activity on those sites than there used to be. I used to personally play the game on Armor Games, and once the game went offline, I was never able to access my save data again. It was completely gone, and nowadays, especially since the games are being emulated with Ruffle, not a lot of people have it. Congregate's taking a stance that it will be integrated. Armor Games is taking the stance that it should have games accessible to anyone without any sort of downloads, and to each their own, but that kind of removes the websites from my list of places to re-release it on. Depending on how the games do, I may eventually put it back on those websites if applicable and if the reprogramming of the game allows for it. But for now, the primary platform for the game will be on Steam. And in accordance to the question before, where's the game being moved to, if you're moving the game, will the game run on a new engine, and if yes, what? Well, obviously, yes, the game will be moving to a new engine. Flash is old, and as I discussed in the previous question, it's extremely hard to even make a Flash game, if at all, these days. The old websites that used to host those games are long out of popularity, and not a lot of people look to them anymore. And yes, it is possible to actually move those Flash games to Steam if I wanted to in some form. I believe by example from Matt Rozak with the Epic Battle Fantasy franchise, but just struggling to even get the game into a development environment extremely hinders my ability to actually update the game in the future and provide you guys with possible content updates just past the remaster of the game. So yes, the game will be moving to a new engine, and I'm going to lean towards Unity and Godot. More so Godot for a revival. With time, I'll be able to give you an answer more definitively, but let's just say 80% Godot and about 20% Unity. It just seems to be the best option for the use case, and it's extremely user-friendly. Now moving on to a question that I don't actually think anyone had, but I would like to address, and this would be super cool, but will there be modding support for the game in the future? I'd actually like to say yes, but very far down the line. It is not a priority of mine, but it is such an awesome idea to know that I could add Steam Workshop support so that people could add custom enemies, custom bosses, custom items, armor, dungeons, the whole 9 yards. That'd be such a cool thing to add, and I'd love to add it. I'd love to see user-created content. A few people have actually joined the Discord and said that they tried to mod the game in the past, but it just stopped. Like, no one ever ended up doing it just because the game was just so old and it never really happened. So, just a small tidbit. I'd love to add that in there. I would love to get modding support in there one day, and it would be super cool to see what you guys come up with. So, just wanted to add that in there. Hopefully that may answer someone's question down the line. So, kind of going into a bit of a loaded area in terms of questions, I'd like to tackle 2 of them at once. Actually, 3 of... We'll kill 3 birds with 1 stone here. Will there be pricing? Will there be a charge for the game? Will there be microtransactions? And leading into that, afterwards, will there be new content for the game? Items, armor, etc. Maps, assets, music, whatever you want to call it. And let's just go one by one with these. Will there be a price tag for the game? I want to say no, but there will not be a high price tag if there is a price tag on the game. This is more of a passion project for me. I don't necessarily look for any financial compensation here. This is just something I want to do. But if there were to be, in the future, if I decide to put a price tag on the game, it would be within the realm of maybe $1 up to $5. If there's further content, I'd like to update it probably for free. Maybe I'll include it as a DLC or something, just depending on the scale of the content. But I don't want to paywall anything in the game. And I can kind of easily segue into that second part of the question, which is, will there be any microtransactions? Hell no. I don't want to cash up. I hate it in the first place. And logging into the game and just seeing a shop, you need to purchase crystals to buy this overpowered sword. It always rubbed me the wrong way. I never enjoyed it. I never liked it. It was nothing I ever found interesting at all. So I can say with 99.9% certainty that that will be absolutely removed from the game. And we'll put something extra in its place. I'll think of something to use that extra sprite for, or maybe I'll just take it out entirely, but I don't want a cash shop in there. And even if it would be included, it would maybe be like a premium currency of, hey, you did this achievement, you have this special currency, and you can unlock this item once you've passed this level or this hunter rank or whatever. It would be something down the line. So no microtransactions and a possible charge for the game, just depending on what goes into it. But actually, question number 1 is related to the third question, which is, will there be any new content for the game? And the answer would be, I'd like to, down the line. A lot of this would be down the line. What I would like to primarily do is get this game on Steam, get it kind of advertised to the public, and allow for it to garner a little bit of the audience it had back then. I mean, hell, the game on both ArtLogicGames and Congregate had almost 1 million plays on both. So nothing small to scoff at, but depending on how the game does, I'd like to add new items and new armor, possible new missions, and we'll honestly see how it goes. It's a possibility. I'm not throwing it out, and I'm not saying that it won't be possible for new content, but it would be a far down the line consideration on a roadmap type of thing, where it's like, hey, maybe we can add this if we get to like a stretch goal on Kickstarter. But just an example, not like a, hey, you must pay this much to get this, but we'll see how it goes. So hopefully that tackles at least a few of those. Now, continuing on, we're kind of touching the question that I actually most wanted to answer, which is what will change most about the game in the future. And you may have seen a poll on my Discord. It was kind of adding a little bit of extra fluff into this and seeing what I can answer on this video. So thank you again to those that responded to my forum and the poll. Very helpful. The question asked, out of the options provided, what aspect of the game would you like to see changed or reworked the most? And the top answer were dungeons and missions, followed secondly, tied by multiplayer and classes, following after by the shops, and then the armor and the assets and the audio were untouched. So I'm happy to see that a lot of people are actually pretty content with the art. No one wants to see that touched at all. You may be listening in the background. I did publish the full soundtrack for the game online in high definition. Never heard before, at least as far as I'm aware. I believe there are some of the battle soundtracks on SoundCloud, but no one ever looked at those. So go check that out on the YouTube as well if you'd love to hear the music. It sounds awesome. But getting back into the question, what'll change the most? Community input. I'd love to change the dungeons and the missions, maybe switching the layout a little bit, and maybe I'll dig further into what you guys want changed about the dungeons and the missions. But I can definitely touch on a lot of stuff that the community would like to see in the game. Classes as well. Those almost didn't look like they were edited at all. There was a section for crits and stats and all this other stuff, but if you look through the game, it's all 0. Like completely flat. And I'd love to add some depth to those classes. Maybe you could do something super cool, like, hell, I don't know, adding specific weapons per class, or maybe locking that class to a specific weapon. It kind of forces you to have a different play style. It's something I'd like to try, maybe, but it requires a lot of balancing. We need to make sure that none of the classes suck. Like, hell, I don't want to make the rookie completely incompetent, or maybe a poor example since it is the starting class, but I don't want to make any class worse than the other one. They'd each have their specific strengths, and maybe you'd actually need them, or need a specific class more so to complete a mission. Who knows? Smart idea. But other than that, you guys wanted to touch multiplayer, and I believe the shops as well. I will get into the multiplayer in a little bit, but I would like to touch on the shops and the armor and the items. As I mentioned earlier, no microtransactions, and I just want to get them out of the game. Just one flat price, and everyone can enjoy the game. But shops could change a little bit, hence maybe, I don't know, the most suggested thing for the game, selling your spare items. I'd love to add that into the game. There's a lot of stuff that they wanted to add. I will confirm, selling your items, as simple as it sounds, will be something in the remaster. You can sell your items. Maybe we could do it for materials or gold. Just something we can consider. It'd be super awesome to see what you guys would think about that. And in terms of armor and items. I don't know. I like how the art is. I love the art. I love the music. Maybe we could add some new items, new content down the line, like I said. We'll see. But I'll push more on the poll later. I'd like to see what specifically you guys would like to change, and we'll see what happens from there. Let's dig into the user questions. Now just tackling the base user questions. Let's just go one by one. From Tomurus, how do you imagine the multiplayer mode to work? Now, like I said, I'd answer this later, and there's a lot of undecided with this project, to be honest. There's a lot of things I could change, there's a lot of things I couldn't. What I will say is I've had some ideas with the multiplayer. I like to reinstate it, so it will be included, but I'm not sure as to how yet. It was really basic before. You'd basically could play and you join an online lobby where you can't chat with anyone, you can't do anything, and the only thing it allows you to do is to, one, encounter legions full of online players and their equipment with their names as well, and to just hire mercenaries based on the people in your server. Now, that's pretty bare bones. It's almost not interesting at all. So I've been thinking of some cool ideas. One of my ideas that I have is, hell, we could put in a live multiplayer where you could go into dungeons with parties and go and fight, and the ideas are so awesome in my head, and I'd love to try them out. The thing I don't know about is if I were to do something where you could join parties and go in multiplayer and play with friends and all that, the dungeon time would have to be reduced, because there are some of these dungeons that are like 600 floors. I don't remember which one it is, but there is a level with 600 floors, and you don't have a save feature. It's crazy, but multiplayer might be reinstated. Actually, scratch that. I will reinstate multiplayer in the way that it originally was prior, but I would like to do some add-ons. I would like to possibly add the group party function and allowing you to actually play with people. And maybe there was a question, I can't find it right now, I was looking for it, but we'll see. There was a question for PvP. Maybe. That would just require a lot of actual balancing that may or may not be able to happen. We'll see. But I would like to say definitively that the multiplayer will come back in its original form, and possibly with add-ons. I know it's a lot of maybes, but I would like to consult a lot of the community on it and what they think. So let me know in the Discord if you guys have any thoughts. Let me know in suggestions, feedback, anything. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this, and let's tackle it from there. But moving on to the next question, we have a pretty loaded question from BabySux, and we'll just go one at a time. So, any ideas of the game arriving in PS4 and PS5? We could actually tackle another question with that. Will the game be ported to anything other than Steam? I'd like to port it to mobile if the game does well. There was actually a mobile build in the file I received with all the source code for the game, so they did have plans to release it on mobile, and I think it would be a great mobile game to have. So we'd go Steam to mobile and then finally to console. So the answer would be yes if the game does well and if there's any sort of actual want for the game on console and mobile. So down the line, it is definitely a possibility. Furthering on, we say also I would like it so much if there was a spin-off history about the Scarecrow, because he's the best villain and so on. I think for me it will be better if the dungeon system stays the same, but with new events and new areas, etc. Regions would be awesome, and the addition of more equipment, of course. So the game really doesn't have a fleshed out story, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty apparent, but I would love to actually expand it with the possible content that we may add in the future. So we'll see how that goes. And for now, the game is just going to get ported from Flash to Steam with changes and balances and possible new content down the line. And there's always the possibility of the addition of more equipment and items, areas, regions. We'll leave that up to some secrecy for now. I won't spoil everything for you guys. And then finally, they say, I'm confused on whether the game is like a total remake or whether it's a new game with the same name, and hey, you know, I'm loving your work to bring it back to Flash Player. Best game. I'm kind of splicing the words in my own way, but hey, thank you so much. I love your guys' support, and like I answered primarily, I think it was in the beginning of the video. Well, it wasn't the beginning of the video, but like I answered initially, it's a revival, but it's not a new game. It'll be a remaster of sorts. We won't call it the same game, but we'll call it 95% of the same game. I'm kind of getting into the final user question here. I just realized this video is getting pretty long, 20 minutes of just straight up answering questions in a, I'd hope, a non-rambling manner. But we have our final pretty chunky question from Destra, and we'll go at that in pieces too, just like we did with the other one. So starting off, we have, does anyone mind enlightening me? Is it official? About as official as you can get. It's not official ArtLogicGames stuff, but it's getting revived. It is official in that sense. Is it an indie project? Yeah, it is. Is Rudy involved whatsoever? I do have contact with him. I can message him if need be for any sort of contact and stuff like that. So, kind of. He kind of is. What's of the copyrights? I own all of it. I own everything related to the IP. I own all the copyrights. It's a little bit of a gray area for a few things, but I won't touch on those in specific. So, but I do own, as far as I'm concerned, the entire intellectual property for the game, and any sort of subsequent releases of maybe even a second game down the line. Hell, that's a far thought from now. That would be under my name. So, and then what's the team behind it? Me, and possibly others down the line. Maybe the original artist for more content, maybe some other help for coding. We'll see how it goes. And then they said that, okay, I've read through the other channel. That answers some of my questions. Still would appreciate further info on Plan Engine, Godot, more than likely, coding, assets, and any guesses about roadmaps and time lapses. Well, I mean, coding, I believe I answered in the Discord, but I'll just go over all of it again. Anyways, coding will likely be in C#. Assets will be the same. They'll probably be upscaled to fit more of a full screen version of the game. It's obviously meant to be played on a minimized Flash player window, but I'd like to upscale all of it, and I'll be doing that to try and maximize the game as much as possible for almost full screen view. No promises on a full upscale though, as the assets are super small. So we'll see what I can do with that. And any guesses about roadmaps and time lapses? That actually leads into my final big question that I'd like to answer, but I'll answer that at the end of the video. I plan to create content for this game myself, but it died long after. Before, I went ahead and learned it from the inside. Also, Flash code was messy and would need full rewriting for a different engine. But then there were copyrights. 5 years later, someone actually plans to remaster it. Not gonna lie, this is the most intriguing news. Well, you actually did pretty much what I did. I dug into it and learned how it worked. I changed a few things, modded the game myself, and I wanted to re-release it. So, Flash code is extremely messy, which is why I'd like it rewritten in C# and Godot, and we'll see what happens from there. It's all unknown, but I'm very committed to pursuing this in a full remake. So 5 years later, someone actually plans to remaster 10 years actually. We're a decade down, almost from its release date, so hopefully I can meet your guys' expectations and my own. But finally, the big question of the day, and we'll answer it right friggin' now. And we're kind of cutting it short here since this video is going to be almost 25 minutes long. Holy crap, time flies when you're having fun. But is there a release date? I've had several people ask me that, and the short answer is no. This is a passion project, like I've stated, and I'd like to take my time on this, and I'd like to create a game that so many people can enjoy, and just I'd love to revive the childhoods of many. So no, I'll be taking my time and making sure that this is a quality game for everyone that plays it. So we'll see what happens. Roadmap's coming soon, and hopefully we can get this game at least in the next little while. No release date yet, but thank you guys for tuning in. I hope I answered some questions, and I excuse partial rambling, but been nice talking to you. I'm Remuto, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you.